So we've talked a lot about how great the gas mileage is and the fuel cost. What have you noticed, Billy, is some of the kind of drawbacks to the Prius C?
The only disadvantage that I see to it, and that I kind of, that kind of bugs me, is that it doesn't have power whenever you really need it. Like, for example, whenever you're trying to merge into traffic, like on an interstate, sometimes it doesn't have the power that you really need, especially going from really low speeds. We noticed that a couple times today, that it would have been really nice to be able to have that, get up and go, to be able to get in traffic, and we were kind of struggling a little bit. I think if you notice that type of situation, you probably definitely want to take it out of eco, just to have a little bit extra power. You're not going to get much, but a little bit is better than nothing. And before we bought the car, I read some reviews, and some people complained about noise, as they were driving. They could hear the wind noise and other things, and it was a little bumpy of a ride. I don't know. I mean, if you're used to, driving a Lincoln or something, yeah, you may not like the Prius C, but if you're used to a medium-sized car, and we haven't made any sacrifices during this trip. I felt very comfortable. There's plenty of legroom. Now, if you're 6'5", yeah, it's probably not going to work well for you. But I mean, I'm like 5'7", 5'8", which is just a tad below average. I feel like I got plenty of room, especially with it just being the two of us. If there was four people, yeah, in the back, it could get a little crunched, but I don't know about that. But for just a single person, or for a married couple that doesn't have kids, or maybe has one kid, I think it's a decent car. I think it's a decent ride. I think it's a great car, and for the price, to be able to drive the 800 miles and to do it on 40 miles, $40, I think it's great.
Yeah, and so what I've noticed is that, it's how many gallon tank? 10, 11?
Yeah, it's about 11 gallons.
Okay.
So you do have to stop from time to time and fill up. So if you think you're going to fill up and be able to drive 800 miles, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But the sticker shock isn't so bad whenever you fill up either. It's maybe $15, and you're getting 7 gallons of gas, or 8 gallons of gas if you're like a quarter. If you got a quarter of a tank, you're not gonna put a whole lot into it, but gallon wise, you're gonna not put in a lot of gallons, but you drive quite a distance, 300-400 miles easily on a tank of gas. And we don't like waiting until it's completely empty. So once it gets about half full, or before a quarter full, we definitely like to fill up, just in case, especially if we're driving somewhere where we don't know where the next gas station is going to be. We like to go ahead and try to fill up.
Yeah, you can't beat 400 miles per tank on a 10 or 11, whatever the total gallon. I think it's around 11 maybe. It's the same that my PT Cruiser was. That maybe was 12 or 13 gallons, but I maybe got 200 miles for the tank if I was lucky in that car. That was a bit older car. It's 10 years old, but still 400 miles.
Yeah,
not too shabby.
Yeah, and whenever you're going up hills, if there's a third lane, that they put on the right side for trucks, you know what, you're going to have to get over there. You're not going to pass anybody. They're going to pass you, and they're going to do that in the left 2 lanes. So if you get a Prius C, just know that on those hills, it's going to take a little bit of time to get up them. And if you're willing to make that sacrifice, you're gonna win by not having to pay as much at the pump. And you're not really going to get at your destination any later than other people. We would constantly pass people, and then they would pass us on the hills, and so it was constantly this game of tag. And I'd say, we may show up 5 minutes earlier if we were driving another vehicle, but guess what? Whenever you stop and get gas, that takes a long time to fill up too. So I think in the end, you're probably breaking even. You know,
Yeah.
you're making less stops for gas.
Right. So even though, the hills going uphill is somewhat of an issue, not a huge issue, you're not going to, well, I don't know, you're just going to have to take your time and not be in such a hurry. But just driving on a straight stretch, I mean, right now we're going 67, but on the major interstates, I mean, I'd find myself going, in a 70 speed limit zone, be going easily 78, 79, and then I realize, oh gosh, I got to slow down because the speed limit. So, it's fine on straight stretches and down hills even, but it's just that going up a hill, and I mean, that's the way the car is designed. It's a hybrid. It's not meant to be a power car. It's not a Mustang. It's not a Charger or whatever. But all in all, I love it. I think it's a great little car, very economical, very eco-friendly. In the back, I'll show you the back real quick. We do have a lot of stuff back here, but we were able to fold the seats down and have plenty of room between the trunk and this folded down seats to haul all of our treasures that we have to take with us this weekend. So, yeah, it's good for us. 3 people would be crowded, 4 nearly impossible for a road trip like this, I think. But that's all right. We wanted to take the Prius down the first time that we go down to our property. So, it's good. Okay, so we got back from our trip to Alabama Monday evening around 6 p.m. and now it's Wednesday morning. So I did make a couple of trips, well, a round trip to work and then a one way this morning. So that amounts to about 6 miles total. And so where we ended up is for a trip from home to Alabama, 1,860 miles, 0.9 miles, averaged 45.6 miles per gallon, and our fuel cost was $87.22. So that was about 815 miles one way. So you figure 16. So somehow we got an extra. Oh, we did. That's right. When we were, we didn't just go straight to the hotel and back. We drove around to a couple of different towns and did some driving around the town that we stayed in. So that's why it ends up putting some extra miles on. But overall, it was great fuel economy in the Prius. And we look forward to taking it again on other road trips. And in our last video we talked about how the speed wasn't that great, the power wasn't that great, and that's still true, but we didn't mean it to sound like you can't drive 70 miles an hour in this car, because you can. You can't just punch the gas pedal and expect to be at 70 miles an hour in 3 seconds. But yeah, when you're at a nice cruising speed, yeah, you can get up to 70, 75. There were a few times in a 70 mile per hour zone that I was would glance down at the speedometer and I'd find myself going 79, 80 miles per hour and didn't even realize it until I looked, and then of course had to kind of slow down so that I wouldn't get caught by a speed trap or anything. So anyway, overall it's a great little car, especially if you're going to take some road trips. The average miles per gallon that they claim, that Toyota claims, is about 50 miles in the city and around, 43 or 45 on highway. And so we're happy with getting 45 because it mostly was highway and interstate driving that we did. But even in the city, we get really great mileage. So very happy with this little Prius C that we have. We've had it now, I guess, almost 2 months.